This will sound very strange, but the prophetic bomb cyclone in March of 2019, President Trump's trumpeting of a national health emergency due to COVID in March of 2020, exactly 50 years after the first legalization of abortion in America in the 50th state. The prophetic rainbow over Manhattan in April of 2020. And the Apollo 13 disaster, which was a disaster due to an explosion, and its 50th anniversary on the same day as this rainbow. And the Apollo 17 mission, the last time an American stepped foot on the moon. And the two space shuttle disasters that were almost exactly 17 years apart. And the two planes that struck the two towers on 9/11, 17 minutes apart. And Barack Obama's prophetic 57 instead of 50 states gaffe on the campaign trail in 2008. This 50 states gaffe that was exactly 50 years after a TV episode titled End of the World, in which the plot involved a man named Trump that tried to sell the townsfolk of an Old West town a wall of security, are major prophecies from God that is predicting that a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan on April 13th, 2023. And there will be a massive evacuation of Manhattan Island. It is also likely that the official narrative in the mainstream media that will emerge regarding this event will somehow be a lie. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. As you can see in this email, this prediction was known since at least February 22nd. All right, I already made a video talking about many of the connections surrounding the bomb cyclone on March 13th, 2019. If you watched that video, you will recall it had a record-breaking barometric pressure in Colorado, and there was many things regarding it. All I want to do is add one more connection, which is that this bomb cyclone, which again was a 9/11 judgment warning sign, and 9/11, the events of 9/11 in 2001 were the big judgment warning for America to repent or else destruction from God, judgment destruction. And again, the bomb cyclone on the date 3/13 was shortly after the Super Bowl, which was the record lowest scoring Super Bowl with the score 3-13. And that Super Bowl, it's explained in the other video how that was a 9/11 Super Bowl. It was a 9/11 judgment warning sign. So the record lowest scoring Super Bowl, 3-13, was shortly before the lowest barometric pressure record on the date 3/13. And the date 3/13 hints at 3 divided by 13 equals 0.230, which God has done to identify the Antichrist, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23. But this was also a 9/11 sign. And one thing about it was that it had record wind speeds in Colorado at 110 miles per hour. On 9/11, the Twin Towers were 110 stories high before they collapsed. And Joshua led the Hebrews around the walls of security of the ancient city of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment. And Joshua died at the age of 110. The connection I wanted to bring up here is that this bomb cyclone was exactly 13 months to the prophetic rainbow over Manhattan on April 13th, 2020, during the peak of the COVID lockdowns in New York, the lockdowns nationwide, but COVID peak, the epicenter of the COVID deaths were in New York City, and I explained why that is in the Must Watch Manhattan Blackout video. That is part 2, really, of the Obama White House video. And these 2 videos are arguably the highlight videos for the prediction that the dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan on April 13th, 2023. Anyway, this Manhattan rainbow, a famous rainbow in the news. It was a national news story. In fact, it was on Drudge page. The reason why it's prophetic is because the rainbow stretched perfectly between the 2 iconic towers in Manhattan, the Empire State Building and the One World Tower. The 2 towers in this rainbow hinted at the 2 towers on 9/11, which the One World Tower replaced. And in the Bible, the rainbow is God's sign regarding judgment. The Twin Towers were 110 stories high, and exactly 13 months earlier was the bomb cyclone with a record 110 mile per hour winds. And the rainbow is God's sign regarding judgment in the account of Noah's flood, and a bomb cyclone is a weather storm, which is also symbolic of Noah's flood. So the reason why the 13 months is relevant, one reason is that the number 13 symbolizes the Antichrist in the Bible. For example, Nimrod, a type for the Antichrist, was the 13th generation from Ham. Haman, another type for the Antichrist, persecuted the Jews on the 13th days of the month. And the 2 Antichrists described in the book of Revelation are in chapter 13. Anyway, it's exactly 13 months from the bomb cyclone to this Manhattan sign, the rainbow in Manhattan. But this rainbow in Manhattan was also the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 13 mission. In the Bible, a 50-year period is extremely prophetic. And also just prior to this, in the March of 2020, President Trump trumpeted a national emergency due to COVID. And that was on the exact 50th anniversary of the first legalization of abortion in the 50th state. The deeper significance of all of this is explained in the other video. But anyway, from the bomb cyclone, it is exactly 13 months to this anniversary of Apollo 13. The Apollo 13 disaster, it was the 50th anniversary of the disaster. The Apollo mission launched 2 days earlier on April 11th at exactly 13 minutes after the hour. And it experienced its disaster on the 13th of the month, Apollo 13. It was said that the Apollo 13 mission was, quote unquote, plagued from the beginning because right before the launch, one of the original crew contracted the rubella virus and had to be replaced. The rubella virus, and that was what was hinted at as well, because this rainbow in Manhattan on the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 13 disaster was during the height of the COVID judgment warning. And in fact, just a few days earlier, it was reported in the news that the death toll from COVID in New York City had surpassed the death toll of 9/11. And, well, okay, so we won't get, that's enough because I explained way too much of this already in the Manhattan and Obama returns to the White House videos. But so that's that 13-month connection to the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13 makes this extremely relevant. Watch the other videos to learn why Apollo 13 and the moon missions are extremely relevant. It's very, very important, but I don't want to explain it again. The moon symbolizes Christ. The rock. The moon is a rock. The sun's light is too bright for us to gaze at, but we can gaze at the sun's light reflected off of the moon, and that's why watching the moon and symbolizes watching Christ, and watching the moon symbolizes watching the signs of his return, watching the timing of the moon. And God is using these Apollo moon mission signs to point to the last time that an American was on the moon, stepped off of the moon, which is symbolism for America's departure from Christ. That was Apollo 17, and that's why, for example, the two towers were struck 17 minutes apart, and the two shuttle disasters, the two space shuttle disasters, were almost exactly 17 years apart. They occurred almost on the exact same calendar date, and they are commemorated on the same day every year because of that. But it's 17 years apart, and all of this is to point, and the two shuttle disasters are pointing to the two plane disasters on 9/11. Each are 17 minutes and 17 years apart, and that's all pointing to Apollo 17, the last time an American stepped off of the moon, which is symbolism for America's departure from Christ. The last time an American was on the moon was exactly 144 weeks after the first legalization of abortion in the 50th state, the state that Barack Obama is from, the 44th president. And 144 is 9 times 16, and God uses 16 to hint at 4 times 4 in the 44th president. And from God's big picture of signs, the number 9 is the most important number, as from the Bible, it symbolizes God's judgment. And 9 times 16, or 9 times 4 times 4, as in the 44th president, is 144, which is a very prophetic, prominent number in the book of Revelation, which symbolizes God's faithful that will escape the persecution from the Antichrist, Barack Obama. The state that the Antichrist is from, Hawaii, was the first state to legalize abortion on the date March 13th, 1970, and the date March 13th, 313, hints at 3 divided by 13 equals 0.230. This is the only numbers in dates that can do anything like this. And that's because it reveals the identity of the Antichrist, the basketball president that wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school in Hawaii. This date that Hawaii first legalized abortion was exactly 144 days before the 9th birthday of the 44th president. 144 days is 9 times 4 times 4 days, which hints at judgment and the 44th president. From the date that the state that the president is from, Hawaii, first legalized abortion, it is 144 days to the 9th birthday of the 44th president. This is absolutely astounding. There are no words. The Apollo 17 mission, the last departure of an American from the surface of the moon, which symbolizes America's departure from Christ, was exactly 144 weeks, which is 9 times 4 times 4. After the first state to legalize abortion, the 50th state where Obama is from. And from that date, it is 144 days to the 9th birthday of the 44th president. And 144 is 9 times 4 times 4. And God pairs 23 and 44 together to confirm the signs and connections, the 44th president that wore jersey 23. This is how God proves his signs and connections through second witnesses, such as pairing numbers together. And here we have this paired together because the date 313 hints at 0.230, and we have this 9 times 4 times 4 connection to his 9th birthday. Also, the 50th state was the first state to legalize abortion, and Obama is from the 50th state. So you would figure that he knows how many states there are in America, 50. And that's why it's astounding that on the campaign trail, he made a gaffe in which he said that America had 57 states, which is quite something because he is from the 50th state, first of all. And second of all, he grew up in the most populous Islamic country in the world for 4 years. And there are 57 states, nations in the Islamic Organization of Cooperation. Also, from the date that he made this gaffe, speaking of 50 years connections, it's exactly 50 years after the airing of the TV episode End of the World from the show Tracker. But the plot of this show, End of the World, this episode involves a man named Trump who tries to sell the townsfolk of this Old West town a wall of security. He's a con man trying to sell the townsfolk a wall of security, and his name is Trump. This is exactly 50 years before Obama's 50 states gaffe. But not only that, Obama's 50 states gaffe on May 9th, 2008 is exactly 144,000 hours. The number 144 in the book of Revelation is prophetic because it's actually 144,000. It's exactly 144,000 hours, which incidentally is 6,000 days, from his gaffe to the Day of Atonement in 2024, which is the day of the Lord's second coming, Judgment Day, when at his coming, the King of Kings will destroy the Antichrist. Judgment Day is 9,000 times 4,000 times 4,000 hours after Barack Obama's 50 states gaffe, which was 50 days, or 50 exact years after the end of the World TV episode. And Obama's 9th birthday was exactly 144 days after the biggest sin that America has committed, the beginning of the legalization of abortion. And that day is exactly 144 weeks to the day that an American last stepped foot on the moon, a departure from Christ. Also exactly 50 biblical years, which is a prophetic biblical year, is a 12-month year made up of 12 months with 30 days each. And exactly 50 biblical years after an American last stepped off of the moon was the day that Will Smith slapped hard Chris Rock at the Oscar Awards and then proceeded to accept his award for his role in the movie King Richard, which hints at the King of Kings, the rock in the Bible, Lord Jesus Christ. The moon is a rock, and that's why Chris, as in Christ, Rock. This slap of Chris Rock, prophetic sign, is also part of a picture and trail of signs that is leading to the date it is predicted that an asteroid will slap Earth. A rock asteroid will slap Earth, as predicted, on May 26th, 2024. But from the Apollo 13 anniversary, on the 13th of the month, and the disaster was due to an explosion. So the bomb cyclone connects to the anniversary of Apollo 13, but the Apollo 13 mission was a disaster because of the explosion in the main module, and they had to, as a survival strategy, convert into the lunar module, and they called it a lifeboat, which is Noah's flood symbolism, as is a rainbow. And so, but anyway, it's an explosion, and it ties into the rainbow in Manhattan, and the dirty bomb explosion is predicted to occur in Manhattan exactly 36 months after this anniversary of the explosion on the Apollo 13 and the rainbow in Manhattan, the judgment sign because of the rainbow stretching between the two iconic towers. And the rainbow, the image of it was taken from the shore across from Manhattan Island, which was the view that we all have of the towers burning on 9/11 from across the Hudson River. So 36 months, the reason why that's relevant is because the number 36 is, well, it's 3 years. And the reason why 3 years is prophetically relevant is God gave Ahab in the Bible 3 years after he repented, King Ahab. After he repented, God gave Israel 3 years before then he destroyed Israel. It just so happens that exactly 3 years after President Bill Clinton repented live on television with a pastor, exactly 3 years to the minute was the exact minute that the last building collapsed on 9/11. And so that's what was hinted at. Bill Clinton was also the 42nd president, and in the Bible, 42 is symbolic of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. But another reason why 36 months is prophetic and hints at the Antichrist is that 36 is 6 times 6. And in Bible prophecy, 666 is the number of the Antichrist. But 36 is also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 36, equals 666. And so that's why from the Apollo 13, which is a number that symbolizes the Antichrist, it is exactly 36 months to the date it is the anniversary of Apollo 13 and the rainbow in Manhattan and the anniversary of the explosion on Apollo 13. And 13 is symbolism for the Antichrist. It is exactly 36 months to the date it is predicted that a dirty bomb explosion will occur in Manhattan, which will result in a mass evacuation of Manhattan Island, which is also Noah's flood symbolism. Noah and his family evacuated onto the ark before the flood judgment, as the flood judgment began. And what is also Antichrist symbolism in this, besides the 13 number and 36 months, and the date, the 13th of the month, separated by exactly 36 months, is the name Apollo. Apollo, the etymology of the word Apollo, the name Apollo, is related to Apollyon. In Revelation chapter 9, King Apollyon, chapter 9, verse 11, which is a double entendre of God. The 9/11 events and this passage in Revelation chapter 9:11, because the rainbow is pointing to the 2 towers that are symbolism for the twin towers that collapsed on 9/11. But this is also the anniversary of Apollo 13, which hints at Apollyon in Revelation 9:11, which is in itself a type or symbolism for the Antichrist, for Satan and the Antichrist. Apollyon is Greek for Abaddon, which means father of destruction. Hence why this Apollo name in this prophetic sign is connecting to this date of this dirty bomb explosion and destruction in Manhattan.